when I don't drink alcohol, I tune into that deeper voice much more clearly. And even one drink blocks it.
I'm Sujean, and this is Alchemy Social, a podcast about the magic of in-person experiences. From coding at Harvard, where we first met, to launching 3 beloved brands, Molly Fienning follows her intuition. She's the force behind Babiators, Red Clay Hot Sauce, and now Sipland, a consultancy for the booming $13 billion no and low alcohol market. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Sujean.
I'm so excited to chat with you because I have known you for more than 20 years. Mm-hmm. And I am so curious, why start a third company and why focus it around reframing our relationship with alcohol?
I want to have more fun. Life's too short. I'm numbing my sadness under the wine, and I wanted to feel it. I wanted to let it flow, the feelings flow, and not let it fester under wine. And so it's like, assume you've had the money, what would you do with it? And then go for that. For me, the future of the bar is elevated, delicious, well-crafted cocktails with or without alcohol, beautiful bottles behind the bartender. And so no matter what you're drinking, you feel like you're just part of the party. You're tipsy on the beautiful, sexy bar, and you're laughing, having fun with your friends.
How are you juggling being a serial entrepreneur with being such a dedicated mom?
I actually think the two go hand in hand.
Speaking of incredible experiences,
that is one of my most memorable because it was groundbreaking. Mm-hmm. They paid us to put on the world's first 100% non-alc Octoberfest. The life, the vivaciousness of life is what we're after. People are craving that in-person connection. Mm-hmm. And brands are craving deeper connections with their customers. We went from 4,000 a month to 40,000 a month without even really blinking, because the trick with non-alc is...
I'm so glad you're here. Hit subscribe so we can stay connected, and let's dive into this conversation of Alchemy Social. Hi, Molly.
Hi, Sujean.
I'm so excited to chat with you because I have known you for more than 20 years. Mm-hmm. And in that time, you have started not 1, not 2, but 3 successful consumer brands, which itself is such an interesting career journey, and we'll get to that. On a more personal note, though, and this is where I want to start, I haven't been drinking alcohol for about a year now. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I wanted to experiment with to see how I felt. I feel great about a year in. Mm-hmm. And your latest venture, Sipland, is all about educating and empowering both consumers and brands about this rapidly growing, rapidly evolving landscape of non-alcoholic and low-alcoholic beverages. I am so curious, why start a third company and why focus it around reframing our relationship with alcohol?
Totally. That's a great question. I think when I look back on the arc of my entrepreneurial journey, each one of those businesses sort of met me where I was at that point in my life, right? And was birthed out of where I was at that point. And with Sipland, I found myself in Charleston, which is just a big drinking culture, right? And I was in food and bev. My prior business called Red Clay. It was a hot sauce company. I'm going out with a lot of chefs. We're just, you end up without even thinking about it. And I'm not a big drinker at all. I would go and have a glass of wine or something almost every night, just because people, the socialization element, people think drinking is, and maybe part deservedly, that glue, the social glue, to bring people together, to make you feel more comfortable, to lose inhibitions, And so at Sipland, we asked the question, what are other ways we can create and foster that social inclusion without alcohol? But I got to a point where, through personal reasons, and went through a divorce 3 years ago, where I all of a sudden that nightly glass of wine didn't feel like self-care or a positive or an upper or social anymore. It was like, okay, I'm putting my boys to bed. I feel sad. I now pour the glass of wine and I just am sad. It's like I'm numbing my sadness under the wine. And it was, I wanted to feel it. I wanted to let it flow, the feelings flow, and not let it fester under wine. And so I stopped drinking at home. And then I felt so good, like you, that I stopped drinking almost altogether. And now how I differentiate it is, am I using alcohol to tune in to the experience?
Yeah.
Or am I using it to tune out? And most of us in this world, oh, it's the end of the day. I'm tired. Oh, I'm stressed. I really need a drink. And they use it to numb. We as humans use wine or pick your poison, whatever, tequila, beer, to just check out. I propose with Sipland for those who want to still drink alcohol to choose it instead as a moment of like presence. And it's a beautiful glass of wine with friends, or having a margarita with a girlfriend who's in town. And it's about bonding, and it's very focused. And it's a different way, I think, your body processes and digests it. For me, the future of the bar is elevated, delicious, well-crafted cocktails with or without alcohol, equal measure, equal footing on the menu, beautiful bottles behind the bartender. And so no matter what you're drinking, you feel like you're just part of the party, right? And often a lot of drinks without alcohol are all the way in the back of the menu with the kids' soft drinks. You're like, no, I want to go out and party. I just might not want to drink alcohol tonight. And we're changing that narrative through events and social and photos and video shoots, and just supporting both the small brands building the beautiful non-alc drinks, but also the hospitality partners that see it's the future and don't necessarily know how to get there yet.
So fascinating. And I feel like a lot of those themes I have explored also in the last couple of years, just through moments of difficult transitions. Fundamentally, though, I think alcohol, I think we would all agree that alcohol does loosen you up, whether it's placebo or certainly there's a physiological thing that happens. How can non-alc beverages do that?
I think that's a great question. And so alcohol is just one functional aspect in a drink, right? And there are different other functional ingredients that a lot of alt or non-alc beverages use to provide a little bit of that same buzz. Something like a kava or a THC or a CBD, or even certain kind of combinations of mushrooms can have a little bit of that, or even just sort of a sugar, a little caffeine. I certainly think some of it is placebo, but yes, often, alcohol as an ingredient, as a toxin, because it ultimately is, takes out that kind of frontal lobe filter. So you say things you might not normally say, good and bad. You do things you might not normally do, good and bad. For me, it's about wanting something that is elevated, that is well crafted, that is high quality ingredients, that is delicious, that feels like I'm drinking a grown-up drink. And then when I drink that, I almost feel a little buzz. I'll go out with my teams because we do a lot of research, and we'll go to the cool new hotel bar when we're traveling. Raffles Boston has this beautiful non-alc menu in their very hip cocktail bars.
Oh, great to know.
We went and tried the full menu, and I'm drinking it, and I'm like, there's alcohol in this. I'm like feeling a buzz. It wasn't. It was like we're laughing, and it's purely just the vibe. You're kind of tipsy on the beautiful, sexy bar, and you're laughing, having fun with your friends. You just had a great day of work. And it is, I think you can get there without having that toxin that for me then disrupts my sleep, makes me short-tempered or grumpier as a mom the next day. For my partner, and why she stopped drinking, and she's in her 20s, anxiety, one drink would the next morning she wakes up with extreme anxiety. And so, there are a lot of kind of the fun, buzzy upsides you can get from these different beverages without the downside of alcohol.
Yeah. And I think something you said, just in terms of the vibe, I'm sure that a huge piece of it is also the ritual around it. There's an entire industry of stunning glassware dedicated to a very specific spirit, and that's fun. I think that's entertaining, and that's all part of the experience when you go out. I think that is something that Sipland is really highlighting, that you can apply those very same exact rituals, whether it's just the culinary concoctions that go into, say, non-alcoholic cocktail making, and or the way that those drinks are presented in a social environment that tap into some of that just joy and fun.
Something beautiful, something like a really fun, like accoutrement, like some sort of citrus or cherry or olive in the drink. And then also, you mentioned the food element, what are the food pairings? And you see a lot of people in the culinary industry, for whether they've stopped drinking altogether for kind of sobriety reasons, or just choose to stop drinking for health reasons or drink less. There are a lot more thoughtful non-alc pairings to meals at restaurants now, very high-end restaurants that you've never seen before, and that's a fun trend. And my partner, I mentioned my co-founder Lauren of Sipland, she's in her 20s. The whole generation of people in their 20s are almost foregoing alcohol together. They're not drinking because they drunk too much, right? Which is sort of where some people like, in our generation might. Yeah. They're not drinking because they don't have an appetite to. And the alcohol industry itself is sort of, really questioning its future of existence of how it wants to play the game, because they're looking at the numbers of sales and it's like baby boomers, they're good, whatever with Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z. And then there's the huge drop off of people in their 20s. What are they doing and how can we kind of speak to them in that full beverage spectrum with different options?
Yeah. You mentioned birthing Sipland in response to where you were at in your life. The other businesses that you've started are wildly different. You started Babiators, sunglasses for toddlers, brilliant idea. And then your second venture was a hot sauce company, Red Clay, naturally fermented, delicious, award-winning. Is there a through line between the businesses that you've started? Do you feel like there, kind of looking back, was a cohesive why that was all connecting them?
That's a great question. And, I'm kind of right now deep diving and geeking out a little bit on just sort of quantum physics and just
for fun.
For fun.
Okay, great.
Maybe that's my next business. Who knows? But I like it's a hobby that I get very excited about and I want to study it deeper. But what I'm learning is we are all 99.99999% energy, right? And everything, like this table and our bodies and the businesses we build, everything is, maybe 0.00001 matter, right? Particle physics. If you think about it that way, as sort of we're an energetic being kind of attracting, right? Like energy, like a magnet, like you study in school, like attracts like. I realized that sort of where I was in those phases of business sort of attracted that, right? And with Babiators, newly married, I was pregnant. We partnered with friends of ours from Harvard who lived in the South with us, that entering that new mom era, right? And I was this kind of poster child customer for us and cared a lot about that at the phase I was in. And, with Red Clay, kind of graduated where my babies no longer were age appropriate for Babiators and was craving something new, right? And Red Clay kind of fit right in there. Also taught me kind of what I needed to learn in my phase of life, where with Babiators, there were 4 co-founders and we all kind of played a different role. And I had a very specific marketing sort of brand role. And when I needed finance, I'd call Matthew. When I needed ops, I'd call Carolyn. But I didn't ever cross into their domains. And with Red Clay, I stepped in as the business to my partner, the chef's sauce. And he made this beautiful hot sauce. I was a customer at the Oyster Bar. I fell in love with it and was like, this needs to exist. Like, we need to roll this to market. It's the best. And he's like, well, I would love you to help, And so I stepped in. And at that moment, I was like, okay, well, we need a model. And I would turn around and I'm like, there's no Matthew. Or, okay, but somebody needs to figure out where our stock is. It's on the way from a truck in Colorado. We're manufacturing. And how do we get it here? And the operational efficiencies of all that. And didn't have a Carolyn. And so that's the business that taught me that I can do it all on my own. And I kind of what we were talking about, you're stepping into the first time this business, totally 100%. That was Red Clay for me, where I got to really dive in head first and learn all the things and also learn about the food and bev world, which then kind of build those great relationships. It really is this big family, the food and bev industry in the South. And so stepping into Sipland, I feel very comfortable both knowing I can kind of handle all those other sides of the business, know what I don't want to handle from having done it at Red Clay, know what I want to outsource, know what I'm good at and what I'm not as good at. And I think it was a stepping stone to get me here. I know it was.
Mm-hmm. Recognizing opportunity and wanting to solve a problem, though, doesn't necessarily lead to starting a company.
Yeah.
And in fact, when we were students at Harvard, you majored in computer science and engineering, which is not the obvious script for them becoming a serial entrepreneur in consumer brands with things that you can really touch and feel. They're part of our everyday lives. Was there a pivotal moment? Do you remember a spark of inspiration when you were like, I want to be a founder. I want to create a company. I might do that more than once. I
mean, in terms of the entrepreneurial spark, So my childhood dream was to be in the CIA. That was sort of what I wanted to do.
The CIA?
Yes,
okay.
to be in intelligence.
Yes.
And I studied engineering computer science, planned on going into intelligence, kind of got a little cold feet at the end of college, ended up at IBM in sort of strategic consulting for them. Yeah. And within 6 months realized that I did not fit well into corporate America with a box and cubicle and you got to wear this and be here on time and all these things. And I was like, no, this is not for me. Yeah. And so went back to Harvard and worked at a think tank and ended up on a project in international security. And that brought me to DC and I was waiting for my clearance to enter into the intelligence world. And that's when I re-met my ex-husband, Ted, who was a friend of mine from Harvard, who was a year ahead of me. I fell madly in love. And by the time the clearance was here, I had already kind of said yes to a proposal and was like picked up and moved to Mississippi as a military fiance. Wow. And so it didn't really, there was this fork in the road where do I take that or do I sort of see this opportunity of like this great love? And I thought the love was the path I knew the love was the path I wanted to take. And so as a result, with those jobs and as a military spouse, you have to do something that can plug and play anywhere because you're moving every 6 to 12 months. Sometimes we moved somewhere for 3 months in training or they're on deployment. And you see a lot of military wives who are physical therapists or nurses or teachers where you just need wherever you go, there's your job, you know? And that's sort of by necessity had to do something. I could no longer kind of climb a corporate ladder or like do a job that was part of a big machine from these little middle of nowhere towns in the South where we were stationed. And so it kind of was this, all right, well, then I'm going to do my own thing. And the moment I started it, I just was like, of course, of course. Wow. And so it's sort of like the universe puts you exactly where you're supposed to be, even if you don't know how you got there, really.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you seem to have a very like attuned ear to listening. And actually, you recently wrote a Substack about this new approach to leadership. It actually reminds me of what you're describing, the Omega leadership, which, and tell me if I'm interpreting it the way you intended, is actually more about listening, tuning in, I guess, as opposed to dictating a certain approach.
100%.
Is that a coincidence? Why did the concept of Omega leadership surface?
I mean, wow, you point that, it's like, oh my God, yes. Like, I didn't even think about that. But I found in the same vein as kind of the quantum world, because I actually do believe they're connected, with everything that's going on nationally, globally, when I feel disempowered, I want to like figure solutions out. Like that's the kind of the entrepreneurial side of me is like, okay, this isn't working clearly. We need to fix this. Yeah. And when I look at what's happening, both I think within me and my own personal journey on a micro level, and then what I'm seeing outwardly on a macro level is we have this, we've lived in society where people call it like the patriarchal dominant society. But for me, it's just kind of an unholy masculine energy. And every human is the yin yang balance, is masculine energy and masculine and feminine energy. And I think it's hard sometimes for men to think about themselves as having feminine energy in this culture where we talk about masculine. And so I changed the language a little bit. So it's like alpha energy, omega energy, and it's the beginning and end, right? And alpha is each side can be healthy and unhealthy, right? So unhealthy alpha is like dominate, control, destroy, like profit over anything else we don't care about. We just care about ourselves or our money or whatever. And the healthy alpha could be kind of protect, take care of, provide the structure to, guide, lead, right? And the healthy omega is like collaborate, communicate, listen, tune in, greater good for all, honoring our land, protecting the sort of the feminine, the mother earth, the mothers literally in this country. And then the unhealthy feminine or unhealthy omega is this victim mindset of like, I need protecting from the king. I need you to come save me. I can't do it for myself.
And everything is everyone else's fault.
Exactly. Yeah. And we are dominated by this world of an unholy, unhealthy alpha, right? And I found that myself growing up kind of at Harvard and then going to these high intense corporate cultures that were so like, all right, women in the workforce need to be masculine, right? My mom was in Wall Street in the 80s where like you had to wear your suits and like kind of bring this masculine energy if you were going to be a woman in the workforce. And my own kind of homecoming has been tuning into my feminine and not just go, 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 perform, do, but like stop, rest, listen, tune into your point. Like think about what's my joy? What are the things that ground me? How do I ground myself as a mama or as a friend and kind of circling back to the drinking less thing. When I don't drink alcohol, I tune into that deeper voice much more clearly. And even one drink blocks it. I feel fuzzy and I don't hear her as loudly as when I do if my mind is clear.
Yeah, I love that. On that same note, another topic that I find so interesting is that topic of scale. And I think it's very tied to the theme of, say, being a dominant sort of pusher because you're always going for bigger and higher and more. And so, of course, deservedly, we celebrate businesses that have scaled massively, rapidly. Do you have a take on scale in your particular businesses? Because it does sometimes feel a little bit at odds, like you need to be aggressive and dominant if the goal is to rapidly scale your business. They seem to go hand in hand. And so if you're taking a more intuitive approach, a more tuned in approach to your whole self, does that manifest in how you think about growing your businesses?
100%, 100%. And I think it should for everybody. And I think I'm learning how to do that. I think that's something, I feel that tug, that pull of like wanting to like get the gold stars and show, look how big we're getting and how fast we're growing and yay. And these metrics that are the old paradigm values businesses at. But we're kind of in this threshold between the old paradigm and the new paradigm. And the new paradigm is the intuitive, is the listening in, is the omega. And you'll see a lot more feminine energy rise. And it's not women, but just sort of like caring more about joy and peace and relationships and the tribe than top line growth, than yachts, than 15 seconds on a rocket ship. You know what I mean? Like you think about what really matters and like and sort of building businesses that are just aligned and in tune with that. And I've seen a couple great examples of people I'm inspired by who are doing that. But for me, it's sort of, again, back to the resonance and the soul of the business. Like, what is its purpose? What do you want it to achieve? And I think filtering every decision you make through that question, through that one core purpose. Does it align with that? If it doesn't, you say no. And I even had this. We have this very cool new like smoked salmon brand in Charleston, and I've been advising them as sort of coming from the food and bev world, but they are looking for something like a social media or affiliate gifting, and they're like, we really wish Sipland can do it. And I went to my partner, I was like, there's this great new business, they want to be a client, and she's like, no, we're about beverages. And I'm like, no, but like, what? Can we just like, it's an accompaniment to beverage? And Lauren's like, this is a litmus test. And I was like, dang it, she's right. Like, if we are really going to sell ourselves as this sort of like supporter, like advocate for full spectrum drinking, we don't want to dilute and confuse, even if I love this company and love the founder and just want to partner. And I think it means making tough decisions. It means saying no. It means turning down work, turning down dollars, turning down people who aren't aligned, and really just coming back to like, does this match? And I also think some of that happens naturally, back to sort of the energetic matching. Like things fall away that are not energetic matches, right? And so you might try to force something and then it becomes blatantly obvious it's not a good fit, and then it naturally, or you have to part ways. But I think it is like thinking at the forefront, what is the heart of this business and what are the goals? I want it to bring me joy. It's not about the money, right? We get money to then do other things. We get money for freedom. We get money for joy. We get money to serve or help. And so it's like, assume you've had the money, what would you do with it? And then go for that. Go for that next step, right? Okay, so if it's like, I want to take this money so I can go ski in the winters for fun, right? The Patagonia founder did that, right? He's like, we're going to take 6 weeks off from the whole, everybody can just go ski, right? And like, how do you build into your business kind of those values before you even met any financial targets and are achieving those goals? So it sort of takes the money thing out of the equation.
I mean, to be clear, your business, your first business and your second and now your third have been successful in the external, most, straightforward formulaic way. You led them through like very rapid growth. It sounds like the differentiation is almost though that like with each new business, the experience itself for you as a founder is hopefully more enjoyable or more meaningful.
And they all still exist. So Babiators we've sold probably 3 million pairs of sunglasses over the life of the business.
Wow.
It's a very well-loved brand. Red Clay is like a cult hot sauce. It's in Whole Foods, Publix, Fresh Market, Earth Fare. Just, it's a very well-loved, well-respected hot sauce brand. So,
has it gotten easier each time? Starting a company is no easy task. I am living it right now. When you do it multiple times, does it get easier?
Certain aspects do. You have your people. I have my lawyer who knows how to set up the thing the way I want it. I have my operating agreement in place. I have my accountant that I know can handle the financials, and I know how to file copyrights and trademarks. And, there's certain like running of a small business that I can do in my sleep. What I can't speak to is my 3 businesses are in 3 different sectors.
Yes.
So I had to learn once I sort of figured out the children's accessories industry. Jumping into food and bev, specifically retail grocery, was this whole another beast. And it was literally getting like a PhD from scratch in that world. And now stepping into beverage, which has its own different, obviously, alcohol, THC, CBD, everyone they're all regulated very differently and, intensely. And so it feels, and I'm somebody who loves to learn, so I think I get excited at the unknown, and I'd kind of jump in, and I'm just like, what do I do? Here we go.
Yeah.
But there are certain, like, the organizational structure of finding those people and bringing a team together and, like, certain key things about the logistical setups of the business certainly gets easier.
Yeah. Speaking of that, kind of like the fun part, what is your favorite part of what you do today?
Oh, that's a great question. I think by the end of Red Clay, and part of this is just kind of the personal journey I was on in parallel, like through the divorce. It was just, I leaned into work as kind of a coping mechanism. And so I kind of dove into Red Clay a little too hard. And when I kind of came out and could breathe again post-divorce, I sort of was just a little like exhausted from working so hard.
Was it an effective coping mechanism?
It got me through it. Yeah. I think all coping mechanisms, whether healthy or not, can, they do their job, right? But then you evaluate whether you want to stay in them, And there was a certain point where I just couldn't. I couldn't. It was too intense. I could see burnout almost coming down the pike. And I literally hired a sort of a coach business guy who also is an expert energy person, which is, again, my bag of like this bringing very practical and very woo together. Yeah. But I was like, I'll give you 6 months. I can do 6 more months of this, and then I need to be out. And so he was like, all right, let's do this. And so I brought in my partner, and I was like, okay, I can no longer be CEO. You can either step in and I can train you, or we can find a third-party CEO and train that person. And he really wanted to do, was really energized by it, which is great. Yeah. And so I formed a board, stepped onto the board, and he has been rocking it. I don't think I answered your question. Oh, what brings me joy? So what I realized coming out of that was I want to have more fun. Life's too short. You spend so much time working. I will always spend time working because I love working. Yeah. And so I've built around me kind of people who I work with. There's just joy. It's just so much joy. We laugh a lot. My partner and I have so much fun. It's a group of girls. Red Clay is a bunch of, the grocery businesses, old white men. Yeah. And I come from tech, which is a lot of white men. And so it was sort of like, it's fun that it's just, I'm in like a girly space and we like giggle and talk about fashion and also, are like somebody said, you're making not drinking at a party sexy and cool. Yeah. And like, if we do that, if Sipland does that, then we've succeeded. That's all I care about, know?
Great. And hopefully, having fun is in and of itself a valuable thing. But I think that even all this talk of building healthy and vibrant corporate cultures is that it all goes back into making people just better versions of themselves, which ultimately makes them more productive, I think. And I think burnout is probably one of the most costly aspects even to a company, because good talent is incredibly rare. Totally. And hard to develop.
And when people are having fun, they're more likely to that energy around them just lifts. Yeah. It lifts other people. You want to work harder. Yeah. You want to show up early. You want to stay late because it's fun, And I think that's where it's like we're working our tails off. Yeah. But we're just like, I have a smile on my face when I talk about it, which I did not necessarily have in my past businesses.
Yeah.
So that's evolution for me.
Yeah, amazing. How are you juggling being a serial entrepreneur with being such a dedicated mom?
I actually think the two go hand in hand really well because I work from home. Yeah. I make my own schedule. I can pop out for, pick up and carpool and drop them off at piano lessons and take a call on the way and then be back in front of my desk or whatever. So it's all I've ever known. I've only been an entrepreneur since I've been a mother, but I really think that and the statistics show that too. There's something like 60% or more of all small businesses are mothers, because they need that flex at home, right? Yeah. They want to do something. They want to bring the values, their creativity, maybe provide some income for the family, but need to be there after school when their kids are home, or if the kid is sick, they're the ones staying at home. It works well schedule-wise, but also my mother worked on Wall Street when I was little, and I remember being one of only 2 or 3 kids in the class that had a full-time working mom. And I loved that. I loved having the role model and the example, my mom showing me that she was just a badass finance gal. Mm-hmm. And my parents met on Wall Street, and my mom at the time when they met was actually making more than my dad. And my dad, that was awesome, which also, so it was so cool. I had a dad who supported my mom kind of thriving in her workspace. And as a result, I love that I'm raising 2 boys and showing them that their mama can work if she wants to work, but can be home if she wants to. She gets to pick, right? And that setting that example of we'll go out to a restaurant and red clay will be on the table and they're that's my mom's hot sauce,
Cool.
Yeah. And
I do that as your friend.
I mean, so much.
So cool.
And that doesn't get old. I was at the Jersey Shore yesterday and I was walking down Main Street and Babiators was in the window of some kids' bathing suit shop. And I was like, oh, there she is, So it's fun to see these seeds you plant blossom and maybe come back even after you haven't been in the field for a while. And they're sort of still growing.
Yeah. I want to dive into a little bit of non-alc and low-alc beverages as someone who is newly navigating this space.
Yes.
What do you look for when you're curating your recommendations? How are you evaluating whether or not you will recommend a certain brand or a certain beverage over another?
So that's a great question. If we're creating a brand experience for a hotel or a restaurant and there's a theme, we kind of reverse engineered what we found was the best out there with some of our recipe developers. So we create non-alc proxies of drinks that we would serve at events, like the nicest hotels in Charleston. The Charleston Place hired us to do an espresso martini house for back to school. They wanted us to take over the backyard, and we wanted to do kind of a back to school caffeinated energy. And so we did no and low espresso martinis. Then we brought in another friend's bitters brands to get that umami of that alc brings, because the trick with non-alc is you need some kind of flavor profile to match the bite of alcohol, right? Otherwise it just goes sweet.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there.
Yeah.
And a lot of noise, but there are some really beautiful options.
Yeah. That is so encouraging to me, because I will say that the one thing that I really miss is drinking out of martini glass. So I can now have espresso and dirty martinis.
Yes, of course. Well, I'm going to get you all my martini recipes.
Yeah. Why do brands come to you? You've done a number of very beautiful, very sexy brand activations and events. What is the engagement that they're coming to you with? Is it different every time? Like, what is the actual service that they're asking you to provide?
It is different every time. So tomorrow we actually are doing 2 events. We're having one at my house for Lily Pulitzer, the sort of Palm Beach clothing brand. And we're doing kind of a very Southern traditional champagne punch that you'd see in the South served on the porch in like a big punch bowl with little like silver punch cups. And we decided to take that like very literal porch lunch and do non-alc. Actually, we're doing alc and non-alc champagne punch. And so I think people see what we do on Instagram and inquire. Some of it comes through word of mouth and networking. Just the non-alc world is so new and getting bigger and bigger.
Totally. I mean, we are actually, it's very cool. We are at the cusp of having been in a world where non-alc beverages were not a thing.
It's a whole new category.
Yeah, it's a whole new category. I read that between 2022 and 2024, over 60 million new non-alc consumers have entered the market. You have a lot of celebrities who are launching non-alc beers or spirits, but it is still very excitingly like wild, wild west.
For sure.
You don't actually know, like, how does that taste? Is it just like a sugar bomb? And it feels like Sipland is sitting in the middle of all of that, trying to bring a little calm, peace and order.
That was the initial intention with Sipland, was supposed to be this editorial voice where I knew I didn't want to drink anymore, but I loved the ritual at night of like pouring the glass of wine while I cook, or baby's asleep, I want something grown up. And I went to the non-alc bottle shop in Charleston, and there was a college girl behind the counter, and I bought $150 of non-alc wine, and all of it was just gross. It was just disgusting. And I was like, I can't. This, I can't. But I knew there were stars out there. And so we really wanted to first, when we launched, be just like a super tight edit, like the best of the best. Kind of the way you think Wine Enthusiast or, Wine Spectator magazine. So that was the plan initially. And as we prepped to launch, Klaviyo reached out to us and were like, will you host an event? We hear you're doing this. And then that led to the Charleston Place. And so it kind of, it sort of rolled into us being kind of a marketing agency versus this editorial voice, out of just like clients reaching out to us for work. And we turned around and we went from $4,000 a month to $40,000 a month without even really like blinking, which is wild. Sort of 10x year over year, just by like, I think people seeing what we're doing and asking for more of that work. And we had to revamp our website to sort of fill this need as like a 360 brand agency, not just this editorial voice.
You're not an e-commerce platform yet.
No,
but
we're a bridge, and we don't want to be. My 2 rules with this new business were no stock. I didn't want to deal with inventory. And then I wanted a business that could wash its own face. I didn't want to need to rely on investors to scale. And early, there's a very successful female investor in Charleston. Early days, she stopped drinking, when I think probably late 50s, same thing, kind of her body just changed and couldn't digest it anymore. And she was like, I want to put money behind this. How do I do this? I want to invest. That was an example of staying true to our soul as a business. I had to say no. Because I was like, one of my 2 rules was this business needs to learn how to grow organically and not be kind of forced false growth with outside capital.
Amazing. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Not an easy decision to make.
No. Some days I regret it when I'm trying to make payroll.
Right. Exactly. So when brands come to you, they are very in-person experiences based. Are you seeing that as a broader trend? I'm wondering, just in like the hyper-digital world we live in, from your side of things as an agency, are brands leaning more into in-person activations in a way that feels more than regular?
Yes, 100% yes. I mean, granted, we are kind of that, 360 brand agency where we believe, and people come to us because they see the events we're doing, right? But I think and know from myself, my friends, our clients, people are craving that in-person connection. And brands are craving more deeper connections with their customers. I think we're going to see in the world of accelerating AI and screens and tech and all of that, the balance to that is going to be these in-person experiences, off screens, together. Like, we're fundamentally tribal. We are not meant to be on an island by ourselves in front of 4 screens. Like, we are meant to just sit around the fire and tell stories and sing songs and hold hands. That's really what our bodies and souls are craving. And so I think you're seeing companies put more dollars behind it for that reason.
Yeah. What's an event that you've helped put together that really stands out as one of your favorites?
Oh my gosh.
Or an interesting one that was unexpectedly fun.
I think the No-toberfest that we did was pretty wild. Boston has a lot of drinking.
Yeah.
And a lot of alcoholism, more than most cities as a statistic. It's also one of the top 5 markets in non-alc beverage in the country.
Oh, wow.
And so the city of Boston actually has a fund for dollars to put behind nighttime activities, nighttime events, socializing without alcohol for them. Yeah. And so they paid us to put on the world's first 100% non-alc Octoberfest. And we did it. They gave us a great venue right on the river for Head of the Charles weekend, which was the big rowing race. Yeah. And 20,000 more, tons of people come into town to compete and race. And we got to think from the ground up, like the signage, the branding, we wanted a non-alc Riesling that we imported from Germany, from Kolon Knoll, that was beautiful, and a really true German-style Kolsch beer. And we wanted pretzels and sausages. And so it just was literally, how do we create the magic of Octoberfest and have live music? I got a German polka band. Just like so fun. And then just the bonding of a team going up together from Charleston to Boston and spending a couple days there and producing this magic and being there, and the chaos of the setup to the breakdown and you're exhausted to the middle of the day and you're enjoying it. That, I think is one of my most memorable, because it was like groundbreaking, but also because it just was like, again, back to just fun. At the end of the day, we're like, that was awesome. Yeah. And if I look back on my life, and like, that's way more important than like a bunch of zeros in the bank personally. Yeah. And my parents like to say, you can't take it with you when you go. So like the life, like the vivaciousness of life is what we're after. Yeah. And that really felt really just like juicy.
Yeah. I love that, because Octoberfest is obviously one of these events, iconic events in the world that's literally rooted in alcohol, and for you to just turn it on its head and have a similar amount of fun in Boston.
Yes.
Without alcohol. It's crazy.
A lot less negative consequences, who knows? Yeah. And like, again, Sipland is not about sober only, right? We have the spectrum of drinking. And so people showed up with their friends who drink and just wanted to support and like do these things. So the growing trend in non-alc is not that more people are going sober. It's that more people are just choosing to drink less. Yeah. And that could be because they're, for health reasons, they're training to run a marathon, for sleep reasons, like hit a certain age and it doesn't do their body good anymore. It's about, balance, not black or white. Yeah. And it was really cool to just see the gratitude of these people that were like, thanks for offering us a place to go. Yeah. That's not like sloppy.
Yeah. I didn't go, and I'm still grateful that you're doing that, because I think something that's very important to me is it should never be a sacrifice. It shouldn't be that the less you drink, the less fun you have.
Exactly.
That's the terrible setup.
Totally.
So, I think the more that you and your team do events like this and even put it on the radar, that like, yes, it is sad that I'll likely not necessarily be rushing back to Oktoberfest, because it's a wild experience. But I'll go to the Boston one next time.
And our dream really is, let's bring them together. Yeah. Like, I want to go out to a bar where there is alcohol served, and I want to be able to order a non-alc drink that is as like delicious and fun and sexy, and like have fun with everybody. And if we could have had it our way, we would have had alc and non-alc beer, alc and non-alc Riesling, because we want to just welcome everybody. And they had kind of strict rules around the grant, but it's more just like, welcome to the party. Like, everyone's invited.
Love it. Speaking of incredible experiences, you not too long ago summited Mount Kilimanjaro.
I did. Actually, great pivot from that. Yeah. So my girlfriend who lives in Boston, Fiona Benenson, that day in October 2024 was like, hey, I'm summiting Kilimanjaro with some friends. You know a few of them. In January, you should come. And the next day I signed up and said yes. Amazing. So it was like a really 2 months. They had been training for like 6 months, and I signed up 2 months in advance. She's like, I didn't think you would say that. So I was like,
people normally need more time.
I was like, you invite me somewhere, Fee, I'm showing up.
What was the most transformative part of the experience? What do you think you got out of it?
Oh my gosh, so much. So it's one of those things you just know you have to do. I think there are certain people, it's in their body. When the moment I heard like, you should come do it, it was like, yeah. And what I think is so interesting about it is I saw myself on the top of the mountain climbing the summit, and I just had 100% certainty. And back to the quantum physics, all possibilities have already happened. All time's happening at once, everything's happening at once, and just endless universes. And I tapped into this world where like I had summited it, and I'm climbing those last couple steps, and I know it's already happened. And it was like, it's already done. And that's where I like, you know, I hadn't trained, hadn't bought any gear, purchased any gear, but it just, I knew it was happening because I knew it had already happened at some part off into another universe. Yeah. And I just needed to kind of bring that in. What I love, timing-wise, my ex-husband had just been on deployment for 6 months or 4 months. So I felt good about leaving for 3 weeks because, you know, the boys needed some time with him. Otherwise, if that hadn't happened, I would have been like, I can't leave my boys for 3 weeks. That's too much, you know? And it was like, no, I've had plenty of time with them. They need a little time with their dad. Yeah. And so all the stars aligned. And a friend of mine was like, are you training physically? And I'm like, well, I meditate every morning. And they're like, you need to come with me and work out. But what I did do was I meditated every day. And all my friends are climbing these mountains and all the ones who are going, I'm like, y'all will be physically fit. I'm going to be mentally fit. Oh my gosh, and at a certain point, the mental fitness takes over. You know, Kili is not technical climbing. It's like a mind fuck in that like, the higher you get, the less oxygen you have. So it's about summiting, climbing, just regular normal hiking, but it gets harder and harder to do because you can't fully inhale. And that's where kind of the power of the mind comes in. And I had to face kind of my own panic early on in that. And I sort of, you know, meditated through it. And what I heard when I was meditating, kind of feeling on the second or third day of like a panic attack of this, like, can I do this? Am I going to be okay? Was I literally went out to that world of like no time, no space. And I heard, welcome it all with love, welcome it all with awe. And I kept coming back to that when I would be tired, when I couldn't fully inhale, and I would like welcome it all. It's all part of the human experience. Like our souls chose this body not to be comfortable, not to feel bliss, because we could hang out in like consciousness and just be bliss constantly. We came here to like feel human and fall down and make mistakes and have highs and lows. And you don't feel the joy if you don't know the pain. And so, you know, bringing in kind of all I went through in the past and the hard times and like what I went through personally the past couple of years was way harder emotionally than climbing the mountain. And what I realized, it was there to then feel the truth and the bliss and the highs and sort of like just, it's all part of the journey. It's all beautiful. It's not good or bad. It's just like humanness. Wow. And that clarity of like acceptance, surrender, love of it all, not labeling. And the last final day, Fiona, my friend who invited me, she joked. She's like, "You just sailed up the mountain." I don't. I was like, I don't know.
It's all the meditating.
It was just crazy. Like I knew, I saw it, and I should get my body up there.
Crazy.
And people do that in like Olympic training. They like see themselves winning, and then they just have to like get their body there. And I think we all need to do that more. And I remember my dad was like, I have a friend who was a marathon runner who couldn't make it up the mountain. I'm like, Dad, it's already happened. Don't bring your doubt over to me. Don't, because it's happened. It's happening, you know? Yeah. And so there was no doubt. And I want to bring that lack of doubt, that 100% certainty to other aspects of my life going forward, because it just was a really cool moment of clarity.
Right. To see yourself doing it, to envision yourself doing it is to prove to yourself that you are capable of doing it.
It's already happened.
That is, yes.
Yeah, because
that's the driver.
Yeah. Yeah. You see it and you experience it. It's not just seeing it, it's like feeling what it feels like. Yeah. And that's basically just doing it, you know, in another time, another window.
Yeah. When that was over, and generally when you are celebrating, do you have a ritual or a act of indulgence to pamper yourself? That's not summiting the tallest mountain in the world.
I walk every night alone. That's sort of like how I turn off the day, and I meditate or do like that's sort of like my ritual that I really love. Massage is, you know, a nice spa massage, somewhere special. I did a solo safari. Everyone else had to go home, and I had a couple more days before I needed to be home with my kids. And so I treated myself to safari alone and really received that whole experience in Africa on the land. And that was maybe one of the most spectacular things I've ever done.
And to do it alone.
Yeah. It was so magical.
What are you most excited about next?
What am I most excited about? I'm really trying to just live in the present.
Yeah.
You know, there's no one thing that's like, you know, I want to grow Sipland. I guess on the professional side, I've never sold a business. I own all my companies still. At some point in my life, I would like to do that. I'm very excited about, you know, if I had to view like back to sort of the Omega stuff, like my sole purpose, why I'm here is to really empower women to step into themselves and their leadership capabilities. And when I get excited about the future, I see that new paradigm where more women step into leadership roles like we had back in tribal times, like Cleopatra era. I'm very excited to see that.
Yeah.
So if I can be a part of that in any small way, I would.
What a fun conversation. Thank you, Molly.
We run the gamut, Sujean.
Where can we find you? How do we keep in touch?
Instagram is at Molly Fienning, my name. And then it's Sipland is at sipland.co.
Amazing. Since we first met in college over 20 years ago, you've built very successful businesses, wildly different consumer brands, which on the exterior, I think, you know, checks all the boxes of a successful career. But I think what has been even more inspiring just over the last few years is seeing also, I think as sort of high as you've gone professionally, you've gone just as deep personally in your evolution and your truly listening to your inner self, which I think is really maybe one of the hardest things to do for myself, for sure. It's been an ongoing journey. It's really hard to take the time to tune in, and you are doing it and you are sharing how to do it more. So thank you so much for this conversation.
I see the same in you. It's the real work. It's the, you know, it's certainly been the hardest thing I've ever done, but probably also the most rewarding, you know?
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoy this conversation, and let's stay connected, so subscribe for updates.